Hello, everyone, and welcome back once again to my channel, Everything About Coding. Now, today's video is extremely important because we are going to learn how to create a two-dimensional list dynamically. Okay, in the previous video, we have learned about the list and the list methods, and today we are going to dynamically create a two-dimensional list. So without wasting any further time, let's get started. So before we create a two-dimensional list dynamically, we will first understand what exactly is a 2D list, that is two-dimensional list. Okay, as you can see over here, that a two-dimensional list is also called as a nested list, and in the previous video also I have shown you how to create a nested list. So there will be a list inside some another list, the outermost list. Okay, it's simply a list of list. So basically a two-dimensional list is a list of list. So it will have a outermost list, and inside that the items, the elements of the list will be the list itself. So this is a list of list. So you can visualize it like a table or a matrix. So if you are a student of science, so definitely you might have worked with matrix and the matrix operation, matrix addition, matrix multiplication, right? So there are rows and columns. So that is what it is going to represent, a two-dimensional list with rows and columns, right? So that is about what exactly is a 2D list. And this is how a list is going to look like in Python. So we can create a list, we can directly define a 2D list. And this is how a 2D list is going to look like. As you can see, there is a variable that is data. So that is just a name of the variable. Okay. And inside that you can see that this is the outermost list. Okay, this and this, you can see the opening and closing square brackets, and then the elements, there are three elements, 1, 2, and 3. Just give a number, 1, 2, and 3, right? So the elements of the list is the list itself, and there are three nested list. Okay, inside that nested list there are three numbers. That numbers can be any number. So it is 1, 2, 3 in the first list, then 4, 5, 6 in the second list, and 7, 8, 9 in the third list. So if you really visualize this, we can also do it in this way. Like I can have this way, opening bracket, that's the outermost list, and then okay, and then I can have the first list like this, 1, 2, 3. That is the first list. Okay, I'll just shift this aside over here, and yeah, so that is that. I'll give a comma. Then the second list, that is 4, 5, and 6, right? And then the third list, that is 7, 8, and 9, and then the closing bracket of the outermost list, right? So as you can see, there are three rows. There are three rows in this particular list, and in every list there are three columns. Okay, how can we say there are three columns? Because in every list, every item, right, has three numbers, right? So this is a nested list, and this is having three rows and three columns. Had it been something like this, okay, I have a list, and then there is one list, and there are some numbers, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now there are four numbers, then comma, that will say 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9, 10, 11, and 12, and then the closing of the outermost list. Now, how many rows are there? This is the first list, second list, and third list. So there are three rows, and how many columns are there? Every list has four numbers, so there are four columns. So it is a 3 by 4 matrix or 3 by 4 nested two-dimensional list. Okay, Okay. Now, how to access the elements of the list? Okay. For example, we are over here, right? Now, if you consider this particular list, okay, that is a 3 by 3 list. There are 3 rows and 3 columns. So if I say data, now the name of the variable was data. So if I say data of 0, so that is going to refer to the first element because we are saying the index value 0. So that will be the first list, right? So this is going to print, that is this particular list. So simple. But if I say data 1 and 2, so what is this going to refer? So this is going to refer, first is this index will be the row and this will be the, you can say, the column. Okay, so the index number 1, so this is 0 and this is 1, so it is going to refer to the second row, so that is this particular list. Inside that list I'm going to refer to the second column, so this is 0, 1 and 2, and that is what, that is 6. So this is going to print the value 6. Okay, it takes a bit of practice. It is not really that difficult to understand. If you practice and just generate few outputs, you will understand this very easily. Just that you need to understand if this is like how I can individually I can access the elements from the nested two-dimensional list. So this will be the row index and this will be the, okay, this is the row index and this will be the column index. You need to keep in mind. Okay, so few more examples that have we have it over here. That is data of 0, obviously it is going to print 1 2 3. Had it been data of 1, so in that case it is going to print the next, that is the index value 1, that is 4 5 6, right? Then I'm saying data 1 of 1, so first row first column, so 0 and 1 and the first column, that is 4. So okay, that's the 0, so that is the first column. When I'm referring first, it is basically the index value starts from 0, so do not get confused. Okay, so if I say first over here, so basically that's the second row. Okay, so 0 and 1, okay, that's the second row, and then we are referring 1, so that is 0 and 1, that is second column, and that is 5 over here, right? If I say that is 2 0, so the index value 2 0 1 and 2, so that is the third row, and that is 0, that is first column, that is what, 7, so it is 7 over here, right? So I hope that is clear to you. Okay, now comes the important part, is we can actually declare a two-dimensional list so easily. We can do it in a PyCharm. So we will be going to PyCharm and we will do the same list dynamically. So, we won't declare the two-dimensional list. We will create the list by using the Python code. So there are basically 3 ways to do it, of creating a two-dimensional list. The first one is using the loops. So that's the basic approach. So we are going to use a nested loop. Using the nested loop, we will be creating a two-dimensional list. And the second one, so that's the first one. Okay. And the second one, using the list comprehension, which is the most easiest and the cleaner way to do it. But this is a bit confusing at times for the beginner. But if you practice, it's not that difficult at all. But this is the most easiest way to create a two-dimensional list. And last, it is also going to be the loops, nested loops, but we are going to take the input from the user. So user is going to tell how many rows and how many columns, and depending on that, we are going to create the two-dimensional list. So without wasting further time, let us go to PyCharm and implement all these three ways of creating the two-dimensional list. Okay, so the first way is using the nested loops. So how we can create a dynamic list using the nested loops. So what we are going to take, we are going to take 2 variables and I will call them the rows. So let me just define the row as 3 rows. Okay. And this time I'm going to take columns because we have seen 3 by 3 matrix. So I will take rows as 3 and columns as 4. Okay. So this is going to be 3 by 4 2D list. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the nested for loop. So I will say for I in rows. Okay. So if I say rows, so that will be in the range function because I will require the 3 iterations. Okay. So if I say range rows, that is 3. So it will go from 0, 1, and 2. And I need these index values. Basically, these are going to be the index value 0, 1, 2. Okay, so the first, second, and third row. And then what I'm going to do is I need to create. Okay, I just forgot that we need a outermost list. So first we need to create that outermost list. And inside that list, we are going to have the 3 nested list, right? So let me just say nested, or can I just give the name as matrix? Okay. Now you can see that I have declared a list. Okay. So list, which is basically empty at this point. Okay. Now inside this loop, what we need to do is I will create a new list and I will just call that as a row. So do not get confused. I've given name over here that is a rows. So that's a different variable and this is just a row which is a list. Okay. So every time this loop will go, it will create a new list. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create, okay, the columns using the nested loops. So for j in, that is range function, and columns. Okay, so this is going to create the columns. Then what I need to do over here is I need to, okay, I'm just going to store the value 0. Okay, how we can do that? And that we can do in a way, the row dot append and 0. So I'm just entering the value 0 in the innermost loop. So this is the row, okay, innermost list. So we just created a list, a new list. The name of this list is row, and then inside that row I'm going to enter the values, that is 0. So how many zeros will be added in the list with the name row? That is 4 zeros. So those will represent the 4 columns. Okay, after I do this, then outside this loop, that is the j loop. Okay, outside the j loop, once I enter all the numbers, that is the 4 zeros which will represent the columns, what I will do is I will say that is matrix, that is the outermost list dot append and then the row. So what we have done is we had created an outermost list with the name matrix. Then with this loop, okay, that is the outermost loop, that is the j loop, will have 3 iterations. For the first iteration, it will create a list, that is row. Inside that list, I will be adding 4 zeros. So this is going to add those 4 zeros, and then after adding those 4 zeros, that complete list will be added to the list, that is the matrix. So this way I'll be adding 3 lists and every list will have 4 zeros. I hope this is clear to you. So now if I just print the matrix, let us see what output do we get. Okay, boom. You can see that we have, this is the outermost list. Okay, as you can see, and then this list has 3 innermost list which represents the row. So 1, 2, and 3, and every list, the nested list has four zeros. So this is 3 by 4 matrix. You can say that. Okay. I hope this is not really that confusing, but as a beginner, many people they don't understand this code. But if you really practice, this is not really that difficult to understand. Coding requires practice. The more you practice, the more you understand the code in a much better way, and then you start coding in a much better way. Now I have printed the matrix like straight away, the outermost list, that is the matrix. What I can do, I can also do it this way for I in matrix. So I will just access individual element, which is a list, and I will simply print those individual elements. That is print I. So I is going to have that first innermost list. It will print, then the next list, and then the third list. Now if I run this, you can see the output. We will have this output. Now there is no outermost list because I'm just printing the innermost list over here. But just to show you, this is the first row, this is the second row, and this is the third row. And every row has four columns. So this is 3 by 4 matrix. Now the second method will be the list comprehension, and this is one of the easiest way of creating a two-dimensional list. So let me just show you how to create a two-dimensional list using the list comprehension. Okay, so we are going to take the rows and columns variable just like what we did previously. So I will take rows as 3 and columns as 4. Okay, and now I'm going to do something which may confuse you. So I will say matrix is equal to, so straight away in one line we are going to create the two-dimensional list. How to do that? Okay, see, this is going to be the outermost list, that is matrix. Now inside that list, okay, we will straight away type the code, that is for I in range, and that is rows. This is the first step. Okay, so how we do this is, okay, this is like something like the bottom up approach. So we type the loop, and whatever the code we need inside that loop will be in front of that loop. Okay, this is how we do it in list comprehension. So what I want, that this loop will go for three iterations, that is 0, 1, and 2. And for every iterations, it is going to create the nested list. So this is going to be my nested list. Okay. As I said, this is different as what we type. This is something like the bottom up, you can say. So this is the for loop, and the code inside that loop that we type will be in front of it. Okay, so for every I, this is going to create this empty list. Okay, but I don't require empty list, I require four columns. So there should be four zeros, right? So those four zeros also I need a loop. So inside that nested list, I will simply say for j in range, and that is columns, and this is going to generate the zero. How it is going to generate the zero? I will simply type 0 in front of that in that j loop. So you can see that this is the j loop. Okay, inside that nested loop, and for every j it is going to generate the value 0. So this is called as the list comprehension. How to understand this code is, this is the outermost loop, that is the I loop. Inside this I loop we have this list. Okay, so it is going to create empty list if we do not have anything over here. But inside that nested list, again I have a loop, that is the j loop. So this is a kind of a nested for loop, and every j is going to generate this 0. And this is going to be absolutely the same thing what we did using the nested loop, but this is a list comprehension. So If I print the matrix now, you can see we have absolutely the same output, that there are 3 rows and 4 columns. So this is how you can generate a two-dimensional list using the list comprehension. And I've also told you how to understand what exactly is happening. You have to start from the right hand side. So this is for I in range, and the code that we require inside that I is this. So every I, okay, every iteration of I is going to generate a list, that is this list. And inside that list, I am generating 4 zeros. For that, I have given this inside that nested list for j in range 0. I hope now this is, again, I'm explaining this. Okay, so this is list comprehension practice, and it's very easy to understand. And now we'll go for the third way using the nested loops only, but we are going to take the input from the user, that how many rows and how many columns. So let's start with that. So using the user input, we are going to generate the two-dimensional list. So what I'm going to do over here, I will say rows is equal to in, and then I will say input, enter how many rows, right? And then I'm going to accept columns and say int input, and then enter how many columns, right? So user is going to enter the number of rows and number of columns. And then I need to have the nested loop. So for I in range, and then I will say rows. So this is going to be same as what we did before. Okay. And then what I'm going to do over here is, okay, I just forgot the outermost list, that is the matrix. Inside that, I'm going to create a new nested list. This is going to be the nested list. So I'm going to create a list first. Name of this list is row, only row. Okay. So this is the list. And then I'm going to say for j in range, that is columns. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to accept values for the rows and columns. So this is going to be user input. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say value is equal to int, and then I will say input, then I will say enter value for row, and that row is going to be I, that is the first row. Now over here, the index value starts from 0, but for the user, it is going to be 1, right? So what I'm going to do over here is, this is going to print as it is, row, then give a space, then plus. So I'm going to join two strings. I will say str of I plus 1. Okay. So do not get confused with this. This is going to be first row, and then I'm going to say plus again, then again column. Okay, I just use the call. Okay, call, then plus str of call, that is, sorry, that is going to be j plus 1. Okay, and then plus again colon. Okay, this seems to be a bit confusing, but it is not really that confusing. So what does this mean is, it is going to print the message like enter value for row 1, column 1. And then the user is going to enter a value. Then it will be enter the value for row 1, column 2. This is how it is going to display. So I'm going to have the value in the variable, that is value itself. And then I'm going to say row dot append and the value. Okay. Outside it's going to be same. I will say matrix dot append, and that is the row. And then I will print the matrix. Okay. Hopefully everything should go fine, but if there are errors, we will rectify it. So let us run this. Okay. And it has At least there is no syntax error. Enter how many rows. So if I say 3 and enter how many columns, I will go for 3 columns. And now you can see, okay, it's not displaying properly. That is row 1, and after 1 there should be space, right? So I'm going to stop this, break this, and let me just come over here. That is row space column space. Now let me just run this. So I'll give 3 rows, 3 columns, and okay, row, that is 1. Okay, space is over here. Okay, now 3 by 3, and now you can see enter value row 1 column 1. So I'll say 23. Enter value for row 1 column 2, that is 56 and 67. And now you can see it has gone to the second row. So row 2 and then column 1. So I have to enter 3 numbers again because this is going to be 3 by 3 matrix. So that will be 9 numbers, right? And now you can see that is row 3 column 1 is 56, 78 and 100. And boom, we have just printed the matrix and the values that we entered is in front of you. Again, what I can do is I can actually use a loop in matrix and then I will print I. Okay. Now let me run this again. 3 by 3, and I will just enter some random numbers and 100. Okay. And now you can see the output over here. So this is the 3 by 3 matrix. Okay. So I hope that this particular video was very much valuable for you. You need to practice because this is a bit confusing, especially the list comprehension is a bit confusing, but if you focus, it is really not that difficult to understand. So keep on practicing, keep on coding. We will meet in the next video. And if you really think that I'm really giving some valuable uh, content to you, so I would appreciate if you can like and subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much.